Every car in this video was sold to American families who trusted the company that built it. In most cases, the company already had the documents proving the defect existed. They ran the numbers. They decided lawsuits were cheaper than the fix. Number 14, sold 385,000 units in its first year, while the company was under criminal investigation for the exact same design. Number 1, Pinto fuel tank. From 1971 to 1978, the Pinto was on every American street in the 1970s. Ford's own crash tests in 1971 confirmed the fuel tank ruptured in rear-end collisions above 25 miles per hour. The fix cost $11 per car. Ford's internal cost-benefit memo concluded lawsuits were cheaper. After 1.5 million vehicles were recalled in 1978, the Grimshaw versus Ford jury awarded $127.8 million. Indiana charged Ford with criminal homicide. It was the first such charge against an American corporation. Ford was acquitted. The fix was never made. Number 2, Chevrolet Vega aluminum engine from 1971 to 1977. Motor Trend named the Vega its car of the year in 1971. 2 million Americans bought one. General Motors engineers had flagged the problem before launch. Aluminum blocks without iron liners expand at a different rate than iron pistons. Cylinder bores went oval. Engines destroyed themselves before 50,000 miles. The fix existed, and it was affordable. It was not implemented. General Motors offered an extended warranty instead. 2 million families found out what that meant. 3. GM CK pickup side saddle fuel tanks from 1973 to 1987. More than 10 million GM CK pickup trucks left the factory with the fuel tanks mounted outside the frame, with nothing between the tanks and the door and a side impact. Engineers calculated that a $23 modification would significantly reduce the risk of fire. It was rejected. When NHTSA requested a voluntary recall in 1993, GM refused in writing. GM settled more than 300 fire lawsuits for over $1 billion. The trucks were never formally recalled. Many are still on American roads today. Number 4, Firestone 500 steel-belted radials from 1973 to 1978. In 1973, a Firestone internal memo acknowledged the company was producing inferior quality radial tires with belt edge separation failures. They kept selling them for 5 more years. At highway speeds, the tread could separate while the car was moving. There were 41 deaths before the recall. When NHTSA prepared to publish its survey data, Firestone sued to block the report. The 1978 recall covered 14.5 million tires. The company was fined $500,000, the maximum allowed by law. 5. Ford automatic transmission park to reverse from 1970 to 1980. Ford sold 23 million vehicles with a transmission shifter that could sit in a position appearing to be park while actually engaged in reverse. 23,000 complaints, 98 deaths. A 3-cent fix per car was rejected internally. The NHTSA administrator recommended recalling 10 million vehicles for a mechanical correction. The Secretary of Transportation overruled her. Ford mailed warning stickers instead. Ford spent an estimated $1.7 billion in lawsuits. The stickers cost considerably less. Section 6, Chevrolet Corvair swing axle from 1960 to 1963. The Corvair's rear swing axle would tuck unpredictably under hard cornering, swapping the car end for end without warning. A $15 stabilizer bar existed as the fix. GM had it, but they chose not to install it for 4 model years. Ralph Nader published Unsafe at Any Speed in 1965, documenting the deaths and GM's internal knowledge. GM hired private investigators to surveil Nader personally. That backfired, leading to a Senate hearing a public apology, and the 1966 National Traffic and Motor Vehicle Safety Act. Number 7. General Motors Oldsmobile diesel conversion from 1977 to 1985. In 1977, General Motors took its existing V8 gasoline engine and swapped in diesel fuel injection without redesigning the engine block to withstand diesel cylinder pressures. Head bolts stripped under thermal stress. Coolant entered the combustion chambers. Engines seized without warning. Hundreds of thousands of warranty replacements followed. Some replacement engines had the same fundamental problem. The damage to American consumer confidence in diesel passenger cars lasted 20 years. A diesel-specific engine block would have prevented every single failure. Section 8. Pontiac Fiero engine fires 1984. Pontiac launched the Fiero in 1984 as America's first mass-market mid-engine sports car. To cut costs, they installed the 2.5-liter Iron Duke from the Chevrolet Chevette, a high oil consumption engine not modified for the Fiero application. Oil leaked onto hot exhaust components. More than 260 fires were reported in 1984 alone. NHTSA opened an investigation in 1987. A recall was issued in 1990, 6 years after the fires started. By then, Pontiac had already killed the car. 9. Jeep CJ5 rollover from 1975 to 1983. If you drove a CJ5 in the 70s, you know exactly how they felt. The University of Michigan studied them in 1980 and found they rolled over in a dramatically higher percentage of single vehicle crashes than comparable vehicles. American Motors Corporation's own test data showed the same problem. CBS demonstrated it publicly. American Motors Corporation settled multiple lawsuits without acknowledging the design issue. The CJ5 was discontinued in 1983. The replacement Wrangler in 1986 fixed the problem with a wider stance. Number 10. Dodge Aspen and Plymouth Volare from 1976 to 1980. Motor Trend named the Aspen and Volare its Cars of the Year for 1976. They were recalled 8 separate times in their first 12 months. Problems included brake lines, suspension ball joints, hood latches, carburetor failures, and serious rust through the front fenders before the paint had fully set. In 1978, Chrysler replaced every front fender on 1976 and 1977 models at a cost of $109 million. That same year, 1.3 million additional vehicles were recalled for carburetor problems. Motor Trend had just given them its highest award. Number 11. Cadillac HT 4100 High Technology 5.8 from 1982 to 1985. Cadillac called it high technology. The aluminum cylinder head could not reliably seal under normal heat cycling. Coolant entered the combustion chambers and engines failed between 50,000 and 80,000 miles, sometimes far sooner. Owners who had paid the equivalent of $60,000 in today's money were facing complete engine rebuilds at normal operating mileage. Dealerships were overwhelmed with warranty claims for 4 model years. The name high technology was never used on a Cadillac engine again. Number 12. Ford 2.3-liter Lima engine timing gear from 1974 to the early 1990s. Ford used the 2.3-liter Lima engine in the Mustang, Ranger, Thunderbird, and Pinto for nearly 2 decades. Inside it had a composite fiber timing gear designed because it ran quieter than metal. The gear also had a finite service life, after which it could strip its teeth suddenly at engine speed, destroying the valves and pistons with no warning. Ford's engineers knew the replacement interval. That information was never communicated to owners, either in the owner's manual or through dealers. 13. GM 8.6 4-cylinder deactivation, 1981. In 1981, Cadillac introduced an engine that could switch between 8, 6, and 4 cylinders while driving. The solenoids stuck constantly. The engine computer could not switch cylinder counts quickly enough. The car bucked and lurched at highway speed without driver input. Most owners found the disable switch within the first week. Cadillac dropped it after 1 model year. The concept works perfectly in modern engines, but it failed in 1981. It took 25 additional years of technology development to make it functional. Section 14. Ford Mustang. 2 on the Pinto platform from 1974 to 1978. In 1974, while the Pinto was under active federal investigation for fuel tank fire deaths, Ford launched the Mustang II. If you owned one, 385,000 Americans bought one in the first year alone. You were driving a car built on the Pinto platform with the same rear fuel tank architecture. Ford never publicly acknowledged the connection. The Mustang II was discontinued in 1978, the same year as the Pinto recall and the criminal indictment. The Mustang II fuel system was never recalled. 15. First-generation airbag deaths from 1990 to 1996. Federal airbag specifications were written around a 165-pound unbelted adult male at 30 miles per hour. Between 1990 and 1996, airbags killed 175 people in crashes they would otherwise have survived, including children in front seats, small women with the seat pulled forward, and older adults in low-speed collisions. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration had injury data throughout this period. A reduced deployment force was finally mandated in 1997. 175 people died in the gap between when the data was available and when the regulation changed. 16. Audi 5000 sudden acceleration from 1978 to 1987. After a 60 Minutes broadcast in 1986 showed an Audi 5000 accelerating without driver input, sales collapsed from 74,000 to under 12,000 units per year. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration ultimately concluded the primary cause was pedal misapplication. The Audi's pedal placement made it easier than in other vehicles. Audi added a shift interlock that required the brake pedal to be pressed before shifting out of park. That specific feature, implemented to end the controversy, is now federally mandated on every new car sold in America. 17. Suzuki Samurai rollover from 1988 to 2004. In 1988, Consumer Reports gave the Samurai its not acceptable rating, only the second time in the magazine's history. During standard testing, the vehicle rolled over. Suzuki sued Consumer Reports for defamation. That lawsuit ran 14 years before being dismissed in 2004. During legal discovery, documents emerged showing Suzuki's own internal tests had identified the rollover tendency before the Samurai reached American dealers. Suzuki had that information before the first one was sold. Section 18. BMW Nikasil cylinder liners from 1993 to 1999. BMW sold V8 powered vehicles in America in the mid-1990s with Nikasil cylinder liners, a nickel silicon carbide coating that was proven in European conditions. American gasoline at the time contained significantly higher sulfur content than European fuel. The sulfur chemically corroded the cylinder walls from the inside. BMW V8 owners experienced complete engine failures at 60,000 to 80,000 miles. BMW replaced engines under warranty at enormous cost. They had never tested the engine in the specific fuel conditions of their biggest single market. Number 19. General Motors engine mount recall, 1971. In 1971, General Motors recalled 6.7 million vehicles, the largest recall in American history at that point. Defective engine mounts were breaking under normal operation. When a mount broke, the engine lifted, the throttle jammed open, and the car accelerated without driver control, while the vehicle simultaneously lost power steering and brakes. There were 63 accidents and 18 injuries before the recall. The fix did not replace the defective mount. Technicians added a cable around the mount, leaving the original defective component in place. 20. De Tomaso Pantera through Lincoln dealers from 1971 to 1974. Ford sold the Italian-built De Tomaso Pantera through Lincoln Mercury dealers starting in 1971. It was a mid-engine V8 sports car offered at an attainable price. Build quality from the Italian factory was inconsistent in ways no American dealer network was equipped to fix. Electrical systems failed in rain. Cooling was marginal in American summer heat. Elvis Presley reportedly shot his with a pistol after it refused to start one morning. Ford ended the arrangement in 1974 after 3 years of warranty complaints. Number 21. Lincoln Versailles from 1977 to 1980. In 1977, Ford took the midsize Ford Granada, added a vinyl roof, changed the badges to Lincoln, and charged nearly double the price. Automotive journalists identified the shared underpinnings within the first week of press drives. Buyers at dealers found identical dashboards and door handles beneath the exterior changes. The Versailles was discontinued after 4 model years without threatening Cadillac's sales. The attempt to charge luxury prices for a rebadged compact car set back the Lincoln division throughout the entire 1980s. Number 22, Renault Alliance, 1983 to 1987. Motor Trend named the Renault Alliance its car of the year for 1983. By 1986, it had become one of the most returned cars in America. Electrical problems were consistent across the production run. Consumer surveys placed it near the bottom of every category measured. Renault's losses on the American venture exceeded $500 million. When Chrysler bought American Motors Corporation in 1987, Renault left the American market entirely and never returned. The Alliance is now a business school case study on the gap between press reception and actual customer experience. Section 23, Chrysler, A604 Ultra Drive Transmission from 1989 to 1993. In 1989, Chrysler launched the A604, the first computer-controlled 4-speed automatic in a mass-production American vehicle. In practice, the computer controls were not mature enough for daily driving. Transmissions failed at 20,000 to 40,000 miles at scale. Class actions were filed. Chrysler extended warranties as claims accumulated. Replacement transmissions often had the same fundamental problems as the originals. The A604 eventually became reliable. The owners of the early production cars paid for the development process that made it so. Number 24, motorized automatic seatbelts from 1987 to 1993. Before airbags were mandated, Chevrolet, Toyota, Honda, and others installed motorized shoulder belts that moved into position when the door closed. The shoulder belt moved automatically. The lap belt still required manual buckling. Most drivers did not buckle it. A shoulder belt alone, without a lap belt, can cause severe abdominal injuries in a frontal collision. The electric motors failed constantly. When federal airbag requirements took effect in the mid-1990s, every one of these systems disappeared within a single model year. Number 25, GM Passkey Anti-Theft System, 1986 to mid-1990s. In 1986, GM installed the Passkey ignition system across Buick, Oldsmobile, and Pontiac models. A resistor in the key had to match the ignition cylinder electronically. If it did not, the fuel system was disabled for 3 minutes. As the contacts wore from normal daily use, the system began failing to recognize the correct key. Owners were stranded in parking lots, on highways, and in neighborhoods where being stranded at night was not safe. GM extended warranty coverage multiple times. The problem outlasted each extension. Every document in this video was real. Every memo existed before the first car was sold. The people who wrote those memos drove on the same roads and bought gas at the same stations. Somewhere between the engineering report and the boardroom decision, the math changed. Every federal safety regulation that followed these stories exists because somebody ran out of road before the government caught up. Drop a comment. Did you or your family own one of these? I read every single one.